Hi, Kim Carney, Commissioner, City of Flagler Beach, resident also, obviously. I have a couple of questions. I'm going to keep them short so we have some time for answering, but I have three different folks. First one, under Army Corps of Engineers, the soil study was not favorable for our beach, and wanted to know what the chances are of finding comparable or acceptable sand and how far out we have to go. When you do your studies, do you actually, or can you actually show what Mr. Holmberg talked about, where in 2001 we were at 14 feet? Do you have any way of studying where we are in 2011, or suggesting that we may have dropped? The study, or have you studied where the deep sand mining effects of dredging has or has not hurt our shoreline out wherever your mile is, 14, 15, 16 miles. So we're dredging further out, bringing the sand in, we're dredging again, and we're bringing the soils filling back in. So there has to be some type of indication as to where the drop-off is. Of your 400 miles of critically eroded beach or area, what are the chances of coming up with anything besides dredging? And is funding purely the number one reason for the delay in getting this thing done in Flagler County? For DOT, Mr. Hyman, I heard Governor Scott say when he was here a few weeks ago, seawall or move A1A, those are your options. I also heard him on a news broadcast down in Miami Beach. No more money for sand. Now that you know Governor Scott and you've been working with Governor Scott, do you think that those statements are applicable to what we're facing? And then my last question is for Mr. John Hurin for ASR. When doing some research before tonight's meeting, I found an internet website that talks about an article suggesting that your system will be pulled out in the UK. Is that true or false?
Do you want me to start? Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. First question about the sand search. I guess it was around the 2008 time frame. 2008 time frame, a sand search was done that was looking at sources in state waters. Basically, there's areas out there that have been looked at kind of preliminary by what used to be called the Mineral Management Service, is now BOMRE is their new acronym. But anyways, so they looked at sources inside state waters, which is 3 miles out. That did not return promising results for compatible sand to go on the beach. Since then, we've extended our search further out. We've identified sources offshore that are, one of them is 10 miles offshore, and our geologist estimates for that one are close to 50 million cubic yards of sand, which is a lot of sand that looks to be compatible as far as size goes with the beaches that's on there. It's not the red coquina sand, which comes from the breaking down of the coquina rocks and the underlying Anastasia formation. It's more of like what you see out there now, kind of at low tide, the grayish white, more quartz style sand. So we do have some offshore sand sources. We've also been looking, there's an upland sand mine that mines coquina sand and rock. We visited them as well, just as a potential alternative. There are projects that have used upland sources, so we want to at least keep that into consideration. Okay. As far as the offshore profiles go, I know the state of Florida does surveys about every 1,000 feet, going back to the early 70s, around the state of Florida. Those go out to a depth of about 35 feet. So we do have data going back to the early 70s that show the profiles going out to approximately 35-foot depth, which most of the ones I look at is about 3,000 feet offshore is where we're at that depth in general on the East Coast. I don't know if
Has it
there's any
changed?
more
Is
specifics.
it changing? Is it changing?
Well, when you take one survey a year, we don't see a whole lot of change in that deeper water.
Okay.
That being said, there's different areas offshore. Canaveral Harbor is a unique feature in that it's out on a cape. It's sticking out from a straight shoreline, and as sand moves down, sand's naturally accreting on that cape. So I'm not sure about the surveys there. It's probably shallower further out there due to the shoal features that form up on the cape. So I mean, it would vary from area to area.
Question about the funding. Is that the number one reason for the delay?
The funding can basically explain a 4-year delay. We had no federal funding, but honestly, a federal feasibility study takes from 4 to 7 years. The federal government is looking at shortening that greatly. We've got pilot studies in the Jacksonville district now to reduce that potentially to something like 18 months. But that's a real optimistic approach. So like I said, it's a long process. It's long for reasons. It's Congress telling us exactly what we have to do and laying out the steps for us. It's not something we like per se, but it's the law right now. So doing the best we can with the process we're given.
And any comment about the 400 critical miles? What are the chances of anything else besides dredging?
Are you talking about critical miles, critically eroded shoreline? Okay, so there's 5.6 critically eroded miles designated as critical by the state in Flagler Beach.
I'm talking about all over the state. You made a comment that there were 500 critically eroded miles in the state of Florida.
Yeah, that's a state designated nation. Just one comment, I think, our studies now, in the past we've used beach nourishment almost exclusively. We're coming to a realization that, sand's not a renewable resource, more so for some of our projects than others. And the point was made up earlier in the presentations, it's kind of the best we've got now, but we don't want to just stop and not go any further. I think there's a lot of potential for a combination using structures to prolong nourishment intervals and stuff like that. Is there anything on there?
Nope, I think you got it.
Pull it in. I believe your question was seawalls versus abandoning or moving A1A?
Yeah, no, basically Governor Scott said you guys have a choice, seawall or moving A1A.
Well, we did postpone or basically stop the seawall project we have, and we have at this time no plans to move A1A. We're doing our best to protect it. That's always a possibility, but we'd have to work with the city and the county. We just can't abandon A1A. And we will protect it as best we can.
But no communication with Governor Scott.
Not directly from him to me,
Okay.
but as far as I'm concerned, as of now, we are still, maintaining A1A.
That's it. Oh.
Yeah. As a city commissioner, I'm sure that you're aware that sometimes the media tends to get stories wrong or exaggerate, and that's the story you heard is not accurate.
It was just passed on to me, so
Right, that's not true.
I researched it.
What is occurring is there was an actual boat strike. The reef in England has buoys around it, but somebody managed to drive a boat onto it anyhow, and they damaged one of the geotextile containers, and we did an assessment, and in lieu of repairing it, we chose to remove it and replace it, and that's what's ongoing right now. So one of the containers right on the top is being removed and being replaced with a new container, and that work is ongoing as I speak.
Great.
there's no plans to remove the reef.